Mikel, just start with the team news ahead of Bournemouth.
Everybody's okay. As you saw, we had Cedric, Fabio, and Emil who played with under 23s, and they looked fit. They trained all week with us, so they are available for selection.
2 wins out of 2, 6 goals scored. Give us a sense of the confidence in the camp right now.
Great to win and great to perform the way we are performing at the moment, but it's just 2 games. It's the whole season ahead of us, and focus on the next match and what we have to do and the areas as well that we can obviously improve.
Yeah, how important is that? How conscious do you have to be as a group of not getting carried away, especially with the fixtures you've got coming up?
It's just 2 games. It's nothing. The whole season is still to play for. We know that. We are very conscious of that. We are very conscious of the improvements that we have still to make as a team, to close games better, to play better, and this has been the whole aim the whole week.
Bournemouth away, they had a good start to the season with that win over Villa on the first day. Obviously brilliant last season in the Championship. What do you make of the challenge that they pose?
Hey, that will be a really tough match. I played there many times. I know how tough it is. I expect the atmosphere that is going to be hectic there. Again, it's a team that is used to winning because last year they have a really successful season. They started well the season. I know the Scott obviously very well as well. So I know that they're going to make a real difficult game for us.
You mentioned the way they play and your matches against them as a player. They seem to, under Scott Parker, have continued that tradition of what we see at Bournemouth teams.
Yes, and I think it's a good mixture between what Bournemouth used to do and what Scott is as a manager. And I think he has evolved the team in a really positive way. They have a really clear idea of how they want to play, very clear identity as well, and they execute that against any opponent and credit to them for what they're doing.
You mentioned as well Scott Parker. You came up against him many times as a player. Both central midfielders. You know, you're part of that group of young Premier League managers coming through as well. I suppose the next generation. What do you make of what he's done in his career as a manager so far?
Really good. I was admire him as a player, as his character. Obviously, I know him personally as well pretty well, and I'm really happy for him the way he presents himself and the way he wants to play this game. I think it's great for the game to have managers that they want to play in the way that he wants to do it, and nothing. I wish him best of luck apart from tomorrow.
He's a fashionable guy, isn't
What do you mean by that?
Well, he's always well dressed on the touchline. What do you think about that?
I think he was always like that as a player as well, and I think he presents himself really well.
Just a couple on Gabriel Jesus. He looked great, on the pitch at the weekend. He got his goals. He seems to be really full of confidence in the interview afterwards. He spoke really well to Sky in English. How have you been impressed with his start at the club and the way he's feeling?
Yeah, probably the biggest difference since I work with him is his maturity. Obviously, a few years have gone by, a few experiences. As you mentioned, his language is improved so much. He's got a different role here. You can sense that straight away, and I'm glad that he's enjoying, having a good time, and performing really well for the team.
You kind of touched on it there, but a bit more specifically, what have you seen on the pitch and off it since the time you worked together? When he just come to England, didn't speak great English, it was his first experience in the Premier League. What has he really changed and clearly worked on?
Not many difference. Obviously, I think he has improved a lot of areas in his game because he has more experience, because obviously he's been working on them. For me, what it makes the difference with him is his attitude, his willingness and his desire to win every single training session, every single ball in the game, and that's what he makes in the play that he is.
You played with great goal scorers throughout your career. How much is a striker who's in form, enjoying his football and scoring goals to be feared by an opposing team?
Top teams, they need top scorers, and not just one, ideally 3. And when you have those players and they can hit certain numbers, that gives you every chance to be at the top of the table.
Just one more really quickly, obviously with the end of the transfer window coming up. Has the start you've had to the season, the good performances so far, perhaps changed your thinking at all about what you might need or might not need?
No, we are still in the same position. Obviously, the market gives you a lot of information, and something that maybe you expect that you could get, you are not getting, or the same when ins and outs. But we are focusing on the players that we have right now and get the best out of them.
Hi, Mikel.
Hi.
Obviously, you were there at the under-21s the other day. I want to talk about Cedric. he showed a fantastic free kick. And is it the message to players who aren't always the first teamer to maybe play in the odd under-21 game and show that kind of attitude? That's what you want to see from all your squad players.
100%. I think there were 3 different cases. Marquinhos has been playing with under-23s, and we didn't believe that it was necessary for him to play again. Fabio and Emil, they've been injured. They haven't had any minutes. They needed that exposure. With Cedric, it was more a case of giving him the option. Obviously, he was in the squad last week. He hasn't played many minutes in pre-season, and we have to give the options for them. He said straight away that he wanted to play, and you could see the attitude that he had.
Yeah, it is very early days. A manager said to me once they start looking at the league table at the end of October. When do you personally look at the table?
After 10 or 12 games, I think that's more or less when everything starts to play a little bit and understand where you are, because obviously the schedule or the fixtures are going to have a big part on that. But I don't focus too much on that. Probably at the end of March, April, that's when it really starts to matter.
He's stuck with his way. The club's stuck behind him. Recruitment's been superb, especially for my fantasy team. And with the likes of Partey in the middle there, I mean, they're a side that could challenge.
I assume you had Gabriel Jesus in your fantasy team then?
What makes you think that?
Well, he's been an excellent addition, hasn't he, Andy? Have you been surprised at just how well it has worked?
Not really, because it felt like he was ready to be relied on all the time. I think that's the thing with him. You know, he's someone who's quite modest, really, for a top-level footballer. He's incredibly hard-working. He's not always seen himself as a centre-forward, but I think he's got plenty of chances to score at Arsenal because they're looking to him for that. But also, you look here when he sets it up for Xhaka, he's always looking for his teammates around him. I'd be a little concerned about the goals they conceded, certainly, because Leicester are not in the best shape at the moment, although they've still got an excellent squad. But then we see Martinelli, who's going to come into his own. I think that's the other exciting thing about Gabriel Jesus, that he can drift left, allow Martinelli to come in the centre. And a lot of Arsenal fans really believe that Martinelli should be playing at centre-forward for them going forward. So a bit of both.
In terms of their defence as well, David, Zinchenko's come into the side also from Manchester City and he's looked brilliant for Arsenal. Where does that leave Kieran Tierney? Can he fit them both in on that left-hand side?
Can he fit the boat? I mean, Zinchenko's been playing in multiple positions, hasn't he? So, I mean, there's flexibility with Zinchenko, and you're right. I think that from what he's done in a couple of games at least has been fantastic. But Tierney, fully fit, fully capable, should start for Arsenal. And I think, again, going back to the recruitment and what he's doing, Arteta, he's got competition in places, strong competition. That keeps everyone alive. Got European competition as well, so you're allowed to have the opportunity to rotate.
He's used the same starting 11 in both Premier League matches so far. Do you feel like he's now set with the team he's got, or do you agree with David that once Tierney is back fit, you could see a bit of a shake-up there? Emil Smith-Rowe is fit again. How does he fit into the side?
Yeah, I think a lot's going to change. We talked about the programme for all these teams in the first half of the season. It's going to be intense. And like David was saying with Zinchenko, we've seen him play really well in that sort of inside left position in midfield for Ukraine. And I felt a huge part of him moving from Manchester City. He wants to be more of a main player. You know, we know he can do a job at left back, but does he really see himself there long term? I don't think so. And I think part of that is because it shows why Arsenal are fully in on Tierney as well. You know, I think you fit them both in the same team as time goes by. And of course, when they finally move Nicolas Pepe, who looks like he's going to go to Nice on loan, then they're going to look for another wide player before deadline. So I don't think Arsenal are shut for business yet. OK, so I know it's early days. We've only seen 2 matches so far. But can you see Arsenal challenging for the top 4 this season, based on what you've seen? Challenging for top 4, for sure. Challenging for top 2, no. I think Champions League is 3rd or 4th place. I mean, they're going to drop points this weekend, unfortunately. You think? Well, it's only because I predicted Brentford would be 2nd, so I've got to... OK. Yeah, I say that jokingly. I mean, the scary thing about when you see this Arsenal side play, they're capable of beating anyone. I know you mentioned the goals being conceded, but if you're going to score 4 goals, you'll concede 2 every week. You wouldn't mind. Yeah. So they're a scary proposition. They have Europa League football as well to contend with this year, Andy, but can you see them getting into the top 4? I still think the Europa League's their best chance of of getting in there. I think a lot of people have written Chelsea off before the start of this season. Of course, a lot of people are feeling positive about Tottenham. I think it's very hard to get into that top four. I think the top four is going to be Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Spurs in whatever order. I think that's really, really tough for Arsenal. In many seasons, I think this Arsenal team would be a shoo-in for the top four, but just not this one.
OK. This weekend, though, it's Bournemouth for them. So what have we made of them so far? They won their first game. Hard to judge them against Manchester City last week, losing 4-0. What do you think? Have they got a decent chance of staying up from what you've seen?
I think so. I mean, I think they'll give Arsenal a good run on the weekend. I'm hoping they win, not because of what my prediction, but obviously because it was my old team. But I think what Scott Parker's on there. What was interesting about the Manchester City game was pretty much everything happened in the first half. And in the second half, with 5 substitutions, another thing going back to Arsenal, when you've got 5 substitutions, you can start the same side and then basically change half the outfield afterwards. So I think what Scotty Parker's doing there, trying to do this season is good. Just staying up is all they need to do, and then they can do the rebuild. But they seem to have something going. Goalkeeper might be the issue. I mean, I think Tavares is a capable keeper, but he's very inexperienced. It's whether or not that inexperience will tell longer into the season.
How much will set pieces for Bournemouth play a part this season when you see the size of their 2 centre forwards? And I'm not sure if Dominic Solanke will definitely be fit for this game, but he was out injured for the last match, and that partnership with Kiefer Moore throughout the season could be crucial, couldn't it?
Yeah, it really could. And I think Solanke's got a lot to prove this season, because there are a lot of people out there who, after he moved on from coming through from great fanfare at Liverpool, just thought he wasn't really good enough for the Premier League. But having scored all those goals in the Championship, a bit like Alexander Mitrovic, who of course has scored goals in the Premier League before, Solanke's like a younger version of Mitrovic. He needs to prove himself at this level. I think Kiefer Moore will score goals for sure, and it'll make life difficult for a lot of people. Yeah, it's all about the set pieces and Scott Parker's jacket.
It's a good jacket, isn't it?
It's a great jacket.
All right, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, though,